So I was gonna use a different camera for my channel. Actually, I found one that I thought was gonna be better than the one I'm currently using. But the problem is it gets too much in frame, and I really don't want too much in frame when I'm talking about this. What I mean by that is the background shows more. You may think there's a lot going on in the background right now, but with my other camera I was going to use, it shows more in the frame that I think it's distracting, and I don't want my videos or the backgrounds of my videos to be distracting because I want to talk about stuff and I want you to really concentrate on me, not concentrate on the background. So for now, I'm just going to stick to the camera I'm using. I'm just really trying to get my point across. Now, recently, we just found out something. Now, if you're not aware, you may know Tekken 7 is coming out to the market next month. If you don't know what Tekken is, it's a long-running fighting franchise. It's been around since the PS1 era and things like that. So it's definitely a pretty old franchise at this point. The thing we found out is the fact that it's only going to run at a mere 900p on current gen consoles. Well, depending on who you ask, this may not be a big deal. But the thing that really puzzles me in 2017, we should not be having a conversation about whether games run at 720, 900p, 1080p. Every game should be running at a full HD 1080p resolution. 60 frames per second, give or take a little bit, but 1080p should be the norm for games moving on in the future. 900p is not going to look bad by any stretch of the imagination. It's not going to look bad. You're not going to hate it. You'll live with it and it'll be okay. It's not like it's 480p or it's going to be smeared like an NES game. It's not going anything crazy, but just the fact that we are getting still games that aren't native 1080p on current gen consoles really boggles my mind. Also, it's not just me. If you look at Sony and Microsoft really understand that their current gen Xbox One and PS4 are definitely really underpowered systems. Even in 2013, they were pretty much still kind of underpowered. Yes, we all know, or you may not know, PC is always going to be the way if you want to play the best, the most intensive graphics and just make the games look beautiful. Yes, you want to do that as well. But even for the time, these consoles are just becoming more and more like not unusable, but more and more unviable. That's why companies are starting to make these new consoles. Whether we see PS4 Pro, whether we see the new Xbox coming out this year, that is also a sign that Microsoft knows that their games are becoming much more graphic demanding. They're becoming bigger and things like that. And developers really need more power to make these games better, bigger, and just more graphically enhanced. Does that mean that they're not graphically enhanced right now? No, that does not mean they're not graphically enhanced. Also, I don't really know how hard it is to develop for a system like the Xbox or PlayStation. I don't know how much work is involved to make these games run at a native 1080p. It may be harder than you think, and it also depends on what type of infrastructure the gaming box runs on or what hardware the box runs on. So it could be hard, and maybe it is really truly that it's just not capable anymore because the games that they want to produce are games that just can't run on current gen hardware. But then again, I can't really give Bandai and Namco I can't really let them pass on this just due to the fact that this is a fighting game, folks. This is not a AAA open world massive game like The Witcher, Fallout 4. It's not a really big massive game to where it would be hard to develop. We're talking about a 3D fighting game. Yes, there's going to be particle effects flying around. There's going to be effects in the background. You might be going through walls and things like that. But I was assuming with the 3D fighting games, just like some sports games or platformers, you do not need a lot of power to actually make this work at 1080p native. So I don't really know how come it's not possible the game can't run at 1080p. I can't be the only one to complain. There's got to be other people that aren't happy either. I'm not happy about this 900p jazz, especially in 2017 when stuff could be a lot better. Yeah, we all know also that when you're buying a console, you should be already expecting you're not getting the most. You're not gonna make the games aren't gonna look the best on consoles because consoles aren't for the hardcore gamer. If you're a real hardcore gamer, you're gonna buy a gaming PC, get like a 1080 graphics card or a Titan graphics card, pop that bad boy in, and you're gonna play at high resolutions. Am I expecting consoles to be true 4K, 120 frames per second? No, but at least 1080p across the board. Because I remember last generation, I remember when we had the Xbox 360 and Xbox 360 and PS3, for instance. We had those last generation, and things were already in the community being thrown up where the games were 720p, 900p, 1080p. People were already talking about them. And if you looked on the back of a lot of Xbox 360 PS3 games, they said some games ran at 1080p and some games ran at 720p. So you can already see talks where people and games were already thinking about 1080p. Right now, it's 2017, we should already be looking at 1080p across the board. Now, also you can say, well, look at Nintendo. Nintendo is technically not doing across the board 1080p even with the Switch, because if you look at a game like Breath of the Wild, it's not running at native 1080p, it's running at 900p. But then again, you take in consideration Nintendo, since the Wii, a lot of people don't know this. People always say, oh, Nintendo is never about power, never about their graphical the graphical power and just pure, like, the most you can get out of your experience. That's not true. If you look at, like, the N64, they had all this, if you look at all the advertising for N64 was about power and the fact that it had 64-bit in the name, or 64 in the name. You can tell that they were about power way back in the day. They always wanted to be ahead of the curve, just like some companies do. But now, since the Wii, they don't really care. So you can't really say, well, Nintendo is not making their games at all native 1080p. But Nintendo, since the Wii, hasn't been really focused. Their main focus is going to be actually getting these games to look the best, to play the best, to perform the best, things like that. They're not known for it now in the last 10 years. But those companies like Sony and Microsoft, everybody expects them to have really kick-ass games and really beautiful games. We're not expecting PC quality games here, but we are expecting smooth, good running games. And right now, you would think that 1080p would be the norm. Maybe not 1080p 60 across the board, but at least 1080p frame rates. It's just too bad that Tekken 7 is not going to be able to play at 1080p when you pop in the game. It's just too unfortunate. I guarantee you, there's a lot of people talking about this in the gaming community, tech community. A lot of people are actually thinking about, if you didn't know, Sony and Microsoft claims that they are still going to be supporting the base Xbox One and PS4. Even though the PS4 Pro is already out, and even though the new Xbox coming out, they will support their current gen hardware that's currently on the market right now. Whether it's PS4 original or whether it's the original Xbox One or Xbox One S, they are going to support their original hardware. But I guarantee you, down the line, someone's going to say, this game does not physically have enough power to run at 1080p, 60 frames per second. We need more power for our game. Can we please have more power? They'll be like, yes, we can have more power for the game, and let's just make it exclusive, the new Xbox Scorpio or the new PS4 Pro. We'll make it exclusive to that, and it'll run fine, and they'll live with it. The reason they're probably just saying that games are still going to be supported on the old hardware is just, let's be honest, it's due to the fact that they want to make sure their customers are happy. But it's just like every other company, even Nintendo. Nintendo's releasing the 2DS XL, and they're just trying to please their fans and tell them that, oh, the 3DS is still a booming platform, but then they're just going to slowly phase it out. You can't just discontinue your current line. That will really piss off customers, me included. So that's actually a good way. Still support it and don't make games exclusive, but then slowly dwindle it out, and then boom, hit a light switch, and then games start pumping out, maybe slowly, to the new consoles, and then after a while, they just flood the new consoles, and that's pretty much where all the new games come. Because I guarantee you, a company is going to claim that games will not run on the current gen consoles on the market right now. Kind of like what happened similar to the Wii U. Well, the Wii U was actually in its own camp because a lot of companies were lying and because the numbers were bad. They didn't want to put games on it. I also heard the Wii U was actually hard to port games to in the first place. Like the infrastructure of the technology used was just too hard to port your game over to it, and people didn't want to deal with that. That's a whole different thing with the Switch, but that was the problem. But one company that made Project Race game, I was gonna say, I keep thinking of Project Arms, but that's definitely not it. Something the project, you know what I'm talking about. It's a racing game, and they wanted it on the actual Wii U, but then they claimed it was gonna get bad frame rate and be too milky. They just said, we're done with it because it won't work on this hardware. Is that the case? Yes, that might have been the case, and it might have been too hard to develop for. So I can't really give Bandai and Namco a lot of crap for it because it might be hard to port games or make games for systems. I don't know because I'm not a developer. I don't want to go through it, but you would think by now games would be at 1080p. And I'm also not sure if that company really did lie to us. They could have lied because we all know the Wii U sold so bad that nobody was making games. They would make up really excuses. First, companies would want to make games for the box, but then once they found out the Wii U so bad, they're backing off. They'll just make a lie up, even though they could possibly make the game for it and then probably run. Maybe also some companies have a vision too. They don't vision their game being low res, 60 frames per second. They want it 1080p 60, and if the box is not capable, they're going to complain and they're not going to physically make it. So that's why I'm telling you, down the road, some companies are going to be like, it's just not viable for us to make this big open world massive game on current gen hardware. We need more power, or else we're not going to make the game. We're just going to salvage the game and call it discontinued, and we're not going to make it. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much the news right now. Anyway, guys, peace out. I'll see you guys later in my next video. I'm out, guys.